Hear me okay? Good? Awesome. So we have a good hour ahead of us. Thank you so much for being here, amazing crowd. We are going to get into it with some actual applied applications here. We're going to see some AI so that this isn't just a theoretical or intellectual conversation. And then after we've seen that, we'll have sort of 15, 20 minutes of that. We're going to bring it together as a panel. I'll moderate that panel. We will hopefully get into some practical things, some theoretical things, and should be very good. I'm going to break to questions in the audience at some point. So if you do have anything, store it up. Try and be loud so that everyone can hear the question. I'll rephrase it back as well for those who are listening online. Without further ado, I think we will pass over to Or from Albert.ai and Ellinor from Telenor. I'm not making it up. No more. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
I think you can figure it out who's Ellinor from Telenor and or from Albert.
And we have our pictures as well. So just before we start, how many of the people here are in marketing in different roles? Okay, it's good. How many are brand? How many are agency? Let's say brand and agency. Okay, so we have a good mix of people. So we will showcase one of the things that, or a few of the activities we did with Telenor and Ellinor from Telenor. And just to put things in perspective, so we're going to talk about what Albert is, but essentially you can think about Albert as a software that can act as part of your media buying team and do a lot of the tasks that you would want to do manually, just do it in a different scale. But I'll let Telenor explain first. What is Telenor all about?
Thank you, Or. Before I get started, I just want to say that I believe tools like Albert will change how we actually purchase media now and forever. So I will start saying that, and I think that the ones who is early adopter to using these kind of tools will have a competitive advantage over their competitors before the whole market has turned into using tools like Albert. As I said, my name is Ellinor Axell, and I'm representing Telenor. And Telenor is one of the world's greatest telecom companies, and we're established in Scandinavia and also are in Asia. Today, we are 174 million. We have customers, and we're still growing. I look at our webpage, and it stands today 178 million customers. We're serving customers with mobile, broadband and TV solutions, and I'm here representing the Swedish organization. So I'm not fluent English. You don't understand what I'm saying, please pull your hand and I will try to speak even better. I started working in Telenor for 2 years ago. And at that time, Telenor was already in their digital transformation. And I was recruited to change the way we work within media, but also in the sales departments. They wanted to become more digital, but also more efficient in the way of work. So the first thing we did, we created a strategy. That's what usually a transformation starts in. We had 3 key stones within that strategy. We wanted to become customer-centric. We wanted to become data-driven, and of course, we wanted to become more digital. We separated this strategy into 2 areas. I don't know if anyone heard about Next Best Action, NBA. Oh, there you go. It's a process towards existing customers. And then we had the other part of the strategy, what we called lead generation process. And that's where we actually merged both marketing and sales into one process. So we could actually measure from media, from all the way from media, all the way down to the CRM system and account management. So that's where we actually got started, and we started to implement the strategy. And 1 year in the implementation, we thought that something is really missing out here. We haven't really figured out how to buy media efficiently, because when we came to our media agency and said that, okay, now we've implemented all this content, we're buying in certain different channels, how could we do this even better? And we didn't get any clear answers here, really. So we went back and said, okay, we need to develop a media strategy for us. And so we did. And we found out that we wanted to have real-time optimization. We also wanted to have something that called an attribution modeling. Is that correct, Or?
Yep.
Yes. And we also wanted to be able to optimize both content, channels, and audience all day long, every day at a year. And we got back to our media agencies and told them, this is what we want. Can you please fix that for us? And when they come back to us, they said that this is kind of complicated, and it will cost a lot of money because we need to hire a lot of people, and the contribution model would take a long time actually to develop. So that's where we got a little bit frustrated, because we now know what we wanted, but we didn't know how to get it. So we went back, and one day a person, my media manager, came to me. I think took 2 months from when we went home from the media agencies, and said, Ellinor, I think I found something. And I asked him, what did you find? No, call me. I just Googled. Okay, what did you find? And that was the first time I heard about Albert. And Ori is going to talk about Albert. But maybe we have some in the audience here who's in the beginning of their digital transformations. I just wanted to share where we were 2 years ago, and then I'm going to talk what happened after Ori has presented Albert. We did traditional ad hoc advertising campaigns, maybe 3 times a year. We had traditional marketing KPIs. It was pretty hard to see the effect of sales. So me, as both marketing manager and sales manager, I really wanted to see the effects of my marketing spend, because I spent a lot of money on marketing, both in creatives and of course the media budget was huge. We spent a lot of money in TV, radio, outdoor advertising and print, and we used external media agencies for 100% of our media budget. And really, we didn't have that much data and no transparency when it comes to performance. And also, the optimization process was pretty poor. So that is where we were, and I will come back where we are today. Thank you.
So, this slide is like, I don't know if everybody knows that, because this is not an Olympic year, but the classic Olympian slogan is faster, higher, stronger. If you think about that, us as humans, this is what we inspire to do, right? We want our companies to be better, we want our teams to be better, we want to be better as professionals. But it's easier said than done, right? And when we talk to marketers and we ask them, what is your problem? What prevents you from being very successful in what you're doing? Usually we'll hear these 3 things. The first one will be staff. It doesn't matter if you have the best staff in the world, everybody needs more people. You have more tasks, things become more complex, you need more people. And it's very hard to come by with more people that's going to be as talented as you want to. More so, more people cost more money. And for most businesses, it's a hard decision to make. The second problem is time. Time is limited. There are only 24 hours a day, and everybody has their own lives, right? You have your holidays, you have your hobbies, you work 9 to 5, 9 to 6. If you work really hard, you work 9 to 8. Maybe Elon Musk works a little bit harder than all of us, but normal people has limited capacity to how much they can work. And you have more work than the time can actually fit in. And the last thing is limits. Like, how many of you want to do things in marketing that you cannot even imagine how you'll start thinking about it? Whether it's attribution, whether it's one-on-one personalization with your ads, and things like that. There are things that us as humans, it's just very hard to do. So we built Albert to do exactly these type of things. So Albert is the first autonomous media buying software system. And when I say autonomous, I mean that system can actually execute by itself without any human intervention. You can give it the KPI, and Albert will go and figure out and execute everything. It took us a lot of time to build this software. So we started the company around 8 years ago. And we have 120 employees, with the majority of them are R&D, because it's a very complex thing to do, and we are all in an AI conference, and you must realize we do a lot of machine learning behind the scenes. Now, so a little bit about how Albert works behind the scenes, or what does it actually do. So we don't have enough time to cover all of it. So this is just an illustration we have behind the scenes, but you can imagine that you have a platform where you can give all the KPI, upload the creative, and do all the basic things you would want to do when you run a marketing campaign. But from that point on, the system just works for itself. It's a little bit like the self-driving car. You tell it where you want to go, and it will find the best way to go there. So when we integrate with our brands, Albert instantly knows every decision they ever made in the past. So all of the data you had in the past, all the actions you did in the past on your Google campaigns, your Facebook campaigns, your display campaigns, Albert gets all this information, and from the first moment, he's essentially becoming smarter than whoever or whatever type of team you're going to bring on, just because its capacity to absorb all these type of things. And once he absorbs all this thing, he starts to execute. So he will connect via API to the different engines, whether it's search, social, or programmatic, and build the campaigns. And he will build it in a way it's going to be much more granular and much more massive than what you would do manually, just because he's a machine and the human limits that we have do not apply to him. Ellinor.
Oh, thank you. So what had happened during these 2 years then? We have gone, we have yesterday, as I explained before, and today we have a digital lead generation process in place, driving customers from digital medias all the way down to our account managers. And we could actually analyze and optimize every stage in this process. We have also gone from traditional media investments pretty much 100% into digital media, because that's where the customers are today, searching for new products and solutions. We have, and that's a great effect of actually using Albert. We have insourced all our media purchases. So I have one person running Albert today in my team. And also, I think that we have world-class media and content optimization. And a side effect of that, because we are collecting a lot of information or insight, what kind of communication our customers like and dislike. So the information that we have and the knowledge, we will use that when producing more content right now. So I will also insource the content production in my team. So a lot of things has happened during these 2 years. And I also get a question, but could you really build brand when you go all digital? And how will that act using a tool like Albert? And I would say, with the information that I have today, I would say definitely yes. You can definitely build brand in digital channels. As you see here, it's in Swedish, unfortunately. But if you see, this is the brand ads that we have over here. Not talking products at all. And we have the other ones that are more down to what kind of products that we have. And when we actually run these ads in Albert and all the way out in the digital media channels, we found really interesting results, because we saw that the brand ads went so much better in Facebook, Insta stories, and those kind of channels. If we look at the selling ones, they are better in search and programmatic. So that is one thing that we learned. And also, and I think that you're better describing this, but
yeah, I think that what's interesting here, and unfortunately there wasn't any way for us to demonstrate it in slides, is that when you work with a platform like Albert, you can essentially upload all the creative you have in the world. And instead of making the decision and sit in a round table and say, oh, I like this creative, let's just use this, you just keep testing and do A/B testing or multivariant testing in a level that wasn't even possible up until a few years ago. And what you tend to see at the end, that it's not about whether I should use a brand ad or whether I should use like some kind of a buy now type of ad. You can use it all together. And the thinking, or if you think about how you operate today and how you buy things today and how you engage with ads, you will never buy anything from a company that shows you the same ad over and over again. What we're trying to create is some kind of a journey on the fly that will illustrate why should I like this brand, why should I buy this product, why now, and so on, and create some kind of a conversation other than just buy this buy now. And the easiest way to think about it, I was just talking to Ellinor about it earlier today, think about if you're going to a store, right? Let's say you go to Marks and Spencer and you want to buy something. How would you feel if you enter the shop and then immediately a salesperson will come to you and say, what do you want to buy? What do you want to buy? And start attacking you with questions. This is on sale. You got to buy this. You got to try this. You will hate the store, probably going to leave the store. Or maybe it's just me. I don't know. But if it was other way around and you walk in the store and somebody will approach you and say, hi, welcome. If you need anything, I'm here. Then you'll say, oh, that's nice. Like they're not trying to sell me something. And it's much easier said than done because everybody wants to do that, right? It makes a lot of sense. But how do you do that if you have to push ads manually, if you have to optimize everything manually? And this is exactly how you use AI to help you do exactly what you need to do. So Ellinor set the strategy, and Albert does the execution, and they're learning from one another.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. So what else? We've been using Albert for 1 year now, and before I go into the result, I think we have to say that this is a really easy tool to implement as well. I think that the first contact that we had was in October, talking to one of your account managers, and we were up running in 100% of scale in March. So that's approximately 4 to 5 months, and you must know that I'm coming from a large company, a telco company, so it's things can take time, but I think that this is a pretty fast-moving project.
It's almost world record.
Yeah.
In big companies.
Yeah, probably. As I said, I have one person who's managing the media, purchasing the media for me, and that was the setup before we actually installed Albert as well. But now, instead of buying from a media agency, Werner in my team, that's what he's called. He has his best colleague in Albert. So today, you will see the 6 million calculation. That's what they're doing together in 1 month. And they also take over 200,000 changes together. So I would say that Albert gives Werner superpowers and gives me good results. So if we can look at the results. For 1 year, we have increased leads with over 122%. We have also lower our costs in media spend with over 30%, and I would say that in some channels we see over 40% actually. And we have a return on ad spend, and I think that this is a great number. It's over 423% increases. So it's, I think this is a success. It works, yes, it does, really. So that's, that's my story.
And I think what's really interesting, 2 things. One, I came across a lot of people that say, yeah, I heard that pitch before, it never works, like I hear promises and then it doesn't work. The results you see here are not any different than what we see with other brands. So every time we work with a brand, that would be the results, sometimes higher, sometimes a little bit lower, but it's here to stay. And the second thing I will say is that everybody is so concentrated on looking at the numbers, because obviously we want to come here and talk about and showcase different things, but the added value is the fact that, like Ellinor said, that she has a full team under her arms that is Albert with her person. And so it's kind of the classic question, is AI here to replace us, or is it here to augment our intelligence and help us? This is a classic combination, and we see with our clients that when we start working with us, at the beginning they're some kind of afraid of, oh, will that take my job? How would my work life will look afterwards? But after a while, they love it, because they understand that the thing that Albert can do for them are the things that they would never be able to do, or they don't even want to do. So we're the heavy lifters, and we let everybody else to do the strategy and the thinking, or the thing that humans can actually do much better than a machine, and machines will never be able to do, or at least not in the next 50 years. And that was us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to stay here.
Thank you so much for that. So very, very interesting. Great start. We are going to invite up Simon from Instreamatic and Amy from Good Loop, and then we're going to form a panel here. So this is the panel that we've formed. So, yes, we are going to see when everyone introduces themselves in a second that we have quite an interesting mix of people using AI in different ways and at kind of different stages of what we might call marketing funnel. For those of you that are speculating why I'm here, it's not just for the free ticket. Codec was the winner of the Martech CogX award. So that's kind of why I'm here. It's a subject that's actually very, very close to my heart. And we work with probably some of the people in the room here, big brands like Unilever, L'Oreal, Samsung, etc. So it'd be good when we get into this to talk a little bit about some of the clients and make this less abstract and sort of say how the impact you've had for them as well. So I have a 1-year-old daughter. There's a lot of jargon in technology, there's a lot of jargon in AI, there's a hell of a lot of jargon in marketing. I'm going to ask you guys to explain kind of who you are and how you guys use AI in a way that maybe even my 1-year-old daughter might be able to understand. It's an easy start.
Baby talk.
Amy, yes, yeah. Baby talk. Yeah, you're allowed to move your hands around and scream and everything, yeah.
So I'm one of these people, I don't have any children, so I'm really bad at like guessing children's ages, you know, just like, is that a 1-year-old? I don't know. Yes, so sorry if this is not right. My name's Amy. Hi, I'm the founder of a company called Goldstaub. So the overarching premise of our business is that online, your time, attention, and data is valuable to advertisers, and we enable people to use that value to fund good causes. So every time you watch an ad, every time you swipe up, every time you engage, every time you give some data, you unlock a donation to a charitable cause. So we use AI within how we buy our inventory, looking at optimizing our performance, finding people that are engaged in what we're offering and trying to kind of increase the performance of the campaigns. And we're also very interested in exploring how data, I think we'll get into this later, but how data is used within advertising and how we can make that more ethical and build trust with the public and build more meaningful value exchanges. I'm going to pass on that.
She'd be dozing around now, but she was alert for most of that.
So sorry.
So it's good. Okay, pass on, please.
Thanks. So I'm Simon, and I'm a co-founder of a business called Instreamatic, which is a voice dialogue marketing platform. So what we do is we connect brands with customers using voice AI, and it's super exciting. Voice AI allows us to sort of reinvent the whole advertising experience around audio. So typically what we would do is we would deliver an audio ad, and instead of it being, say, a 30-second radio ad that you have to listen to back-to-back with 5 other radio ads, it's a 5 to 7 second intro. If you want to listen, if you want to unpack the ad and have more from the brand, then you'll answer. Say, hey, I'm really interested in that. Or you could say, actually, that's not interesting for me, in which case we return back to audio. And so it's great for the brand because you're only talking with customers that are genuinely interested in what you have to say. And it's great for the listener because it's empowering. So it says, I actually have control over the ads that I'm listening to.
Nice. Okay. And I mean, we know what you did, but for those who are maybe joining the stream late.
So real quick, as I said, you know, the easiest way to look at it, Albert is some kind of a self-driving car just for marketing. And in order to develop it, like I said, it took us a lot of time, and we had to reverse engineer what a marketer or what a media buyer would think and would do. And it takes a lot of time. And the easiest way, I don't know if a 1-year-old will get it, but maybe she's really smart. She's brilliant,
she's really
like
smart.
her dad. And so we took 200 or 300 different tasks that you would do as a media buyer, and we had to find the right machine learning algorithm to solve that problem. So it's not just, oh, is Albert an algorithm, or which algorithm are you using? No, it's actually, think about it as like a huge project that has 200 to 300 different components that work simultaneously. That wasn't simple.
That's
I
good.
tried.
It's good.
Yes. I usually say that I'm the mobile phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's
put
how my
yourself
daughter
down.
explained it to her friends, that my mother, she's selling mobile phones. So I was, maybe that's...
It works.
Yeah, it works,
you took
yes.
the brief. Okay, awesome. Now, Amy, I want to come to something you said there. You said, I think you used the word empathy. Is that right? So probably most of us in the room would agree that good marketing, on some level requires human connection, which requires sort of a degree of human empathy. And if I read you a stat from a recent study that Pega did, it found that 75% of consumers don't trust AI. They doubt strongly its ability to act morally or with empathy. To go on, less than 30% felt comfortable with businesses using AI to connect with them, and only 12% believed that they had ever interacted with a machine that kind of treated them empathetically. Is this a problem? Like, is this an inherent problem with AI? Are we opening up a bag of worms that in 10, 20 years we might regret as marketers who do want to create human connections with humans? What's your take on this?
So I think that the inherent problem with the transaction between marketers and people is that it's manipulative in goal. So when you're using AI to specifically target someone and specifically filter the content or the message so that it resonates with that person in the most impactful way to change their opinion, that's quite manipulative. And I think that it's the incentive behind the use of a technology you have to really analyze rather than the technology itself. A way to switch that transaction from a manipulative one to one that does deserve our trust is thinking about how we can give control or choice or even just respect back to the end user.
Yeah. I want to add that first I completely agree, and I think that it's all about, if you can even look on technologies like self-driving capabilities. So if you think about it in a military context, oh, that's really bad, oh my God. But if you think about, oh, your daughter, when she grows up, she will drive herself to school, oh, that's brilliant. You will be happy, trust me. So that's good. So it's really about the application. And the second thing I would say, technology and computers don't have the empathy people have. And that can lead you, specifically in what we do in marketing, to a lot of mistakes, because you have the ability to keep making the same wrong decisions about different clusters of audiences and so on. And what we do usually to fight that is we put a glimpse of randomness within the system. So instead of the decision will be automatically goes to what's going to work, sometimes it guesses as if we were people. So essentially, let's say, I know you, Martin, right now, and I think you're a great guy, and I'll show you a specific, just because you're the host. And one day I'll forget who you are, and then I'll start from scratch. So if you had first bad impression, we can start from scratch, and that will introduce a lot of new audiences, different things, and that's the way we give. It's not empathy, but it's how we recreate some kind of empathy and some kind of randomness.
Is that spark of surprise? That's often a debate that comes up in AI. Is are we heading, down into the echo chambers? Are we just living within our own bubbles? Will the data that is fed to certain people just propagate the same messages to them over and over again? Do you think that there should be do you think other businesses do that, first of all? And should we almost on a wider industry level start to think about that as almost a principle for how we program these things to introduce sparks of creativity?
Yeah, I think you have to do it because of, like we said, the empathy thing, and you don't want to be in a bubble, but also it's a way to create creativity, right? So you're not just doing it to make the world a better place, although it's a good way of thinking about it, but also to bring new ideas and find other audiences. A good example we have is that we work with one of the biggest retailers in the United States, and they came to us and say, our audience is women ages 25 to 50. And then we started working with them, and then Albert started to find audiences that are outside of that group, like women that are 51. Oh my God. So people were so surprised. They're outside of our core audience. And we were like, that's not actually surprising, because you can be 50 in day number 1, and then day number 2 you have a birthday. Now you're 51. Now you're not our audience anymore. So these type of things, we found out that over 30% of their new revenue came from audiences that are outside of everything they did. Right. So you get that value from everything, and I think a lot of people are starting to think this way, and it's something you got to do.
Well, that'd be a good thing, because I just turned 51. I keep getting hit with retirement ads.
Exactly. So we'll randomize it. You'll see some lipstick.
Yeah,
we'll keep it interesting for
But
you.
I think like one other comment is to this thing that people tend to anthropomorphize AI when they think about it. and forget that it's
It doesn't
already-
help when people give them human names, for example. Albert, you might say.
for example.
But you already see examples of randomization and creativity in things like Spotify weekly playlists,
Yep.
right? Which something like, wow, they got it just right. That's not Swedish death metal or whatever that I've been listening to. It's something altogether different that I actually quite like as well. So I think there are plenty of examples where we see it in day-to-day life,
Yep.
and where we don't even know it.
And within marketing, I'll throw this to anyone who wants to jump on this. Within marketing, do you think that AI is there to augment, as the word you used, or is it to augment existing functions? Is it to replace the need for humans to do that and give them more time to do something else? Or is it to give us a whole new set of functions? If you had to pick one, where do you think AI is at the moment? Where is it capable?
I think that AI will help us scale what we're doing right today and do it even better. I think that the machines and the AI will help us to really capitalize and actually use all the data that we have today in a good way. So definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, I support. I think it's like it's this invisible layer that's empowering marketers to be more creative and to find new ways to communicate with an audience.
Anyone disagree with that? Anyone think that it's to give us more time on the beach and work less hours?
That's nice. I will say, again, without getting into a lot of detail, so we were talking about brands, but we also have a lot of clients that are agencies. One of the biggest agencies in the world came to us and said, we want to use you not for performance gains or efficiency gains. We want to use you guys because we want our people to be less stressed about work, because they had a very bad kind of corporate environment. They had to work many, many hours. And now, they work their regular hours. Albert takes it from there, controls everything, and then you can go to the beach or go to be with your kids or do whatever you want. So.
No, but I totally agree here, because I talked to Werner before I just got on the stage, and he said that my days look totally different than they did before. Before I was sitting in all these meetings, it was pretty inefficient. I didn't add any value. Now I can work with more strategic thing. I can help develop content more than I did before. So honestly, I think that he is buying all our media today, and he's doing it with 50% of his daily work time.
I also think that it has a really interesting role to play in marketing in terms of being a leveler. If you look at some of the best brands that are cutting through today, they're not necessarily the biggest, the ones with the biggest spend, the ones with the most followers, the ones that have, the huge teams. I think that the technology that's facilitating and empowering marketers is also meaning that small brands can have the same starting point, which is really exciting because it means that the best ideas shine through rather than the biggest budgets.
Mm-hmm. And where, maybe we'll go with you, Ellinor, you're a big corporate organization, lots of people, lots of data, lots of money, I assume. Do you view this world evolving in such a way that it's for the technology, startups and bigger platforms to build the AI and we'll use it? Do you think that the agencies have a role here? Or what, as an organization yourself with that sort of size and power, do you think about actually investing in AI of your own? What do you think this looks like over the next sort of 10, 15, 20 years?
No, but I know that we have an invention collaboration department that is really looking into AI. We are now investing a lot in 5G, and I think that will be enabler for IoT, so connecting machines to machines, and in that the AI will have a great impact, I believe, to make all the data that we collect on everything much smarter and much more useful. Yes. So definitely, we will. I think that we will see Telenor invest and develop AI. Definitely.
And as maybe, or if you can weigh in, what's your take? You guys are extremely well funded. Mm-hmm. You've been around for 8-9 years. It said lots of employees. How do you see if that's going to be essentially? Currently, it's a war for talent on some level as to what you're able to build. It's a war for talent. Do you think that the client will win, or do you think that the tech companies will win that war?
So I think everybody should win, right? I think, and I agree what you're saying. I don't know if everybody in the audience have felt it, but if you take into a room 100 programmers and you ask them, how many of you have any experience with machine learning? If you're lucky, you're going to get one one hand raised. I see somebody here in the back. Two. Oh my God, we are at 1%. So, and that's very hard. So if you want to build a tech company, or if you want to build a tech team under your whatever type of company you have, you need to find programmers, you need to find good programmers, and now you need to find people that knows machine learning, and that's a fraction of the whole engineering community. That makes it very hard. So fighting over talents is a massive thing. And also, I think that, again, from our perspective, we've been very lucky because people are relate to what we do and relate to the change we're doing in the industry. And it's going to be very hard for Telenor to attract the same talent that we have. Right. And vice versa. In their world, it's going to be there. And so I feel like tech company
But we have different core businesses as
exactly.
well. You know what you do, and I know what we're doing.
Exactly.
So
That's
I think
the best way to work.
Yeah, I think that we have to complement AI in as many processes that we know, and all in as much business as we know as well.
I will not
to make us
start
better.
selling mobile phones.
Okay. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Albert will not be pivoting anytime soon in its ninth year. And how does IoT and that kind of the potential explosion in data that could come from 5G and from the full delivery of IoT, where does that play into your world in the sort of in the voice world of AI?
Well, look at anywhere where there's a microphone and a speaker, we can integrate. And as a proliferation of more and more voice-enabled devices, voice assistants in car, these verticals are going to start appearing. And for brands, sometimes it's really not clear how to insert yourself into that dialogue. Right. And as we move from a sort of screen-first environment to a screen-free environment, it's a real issue, and it's an opportunity. But in order to sort of be there, you have to rethink the creative and rethink what that engagement is going to sound like.
Yep.
So it's not clear yet. Some of these systems are very closed. Right. So if we look at smart speakers, those tend to be quite closed ecosystems. Apple and Amazon, Cortana, etc. To actually how do you actually get in there as a third party and insert yourself into that relationship. Mm-hmm. But I think as they start to mature, it will become more clear how to be present.
Okay. And is there, talking about actual applications and things emerging and clarity, where have you seen examples where you've seen brands using AI where you've frankly kind of been scratching your head at the end, going, why did they do that, or why are they showing this off? This is there's a few examples. I don't want to name names, but Toyota. I don't remember who it was actually, but they had an AI. The AI made this content, and it was a video, and it was utterly terrifying. Like, it was inside the mind of madness. But they were extremely proud, and they were parading it around the conference circuit and saying, "Look at this!" And everyone in the audience was taken aback. Have you seen examples where? And do you still see examples where this is the shiny new innovation budget rather than just driving the actual sort of ROI that we would hope it to? Can you give any examples?
Yeah, so a few things. One, I think that most people would think this is kind of the shiny new object, but from our experience, we have clients like Pepsi and AIG in the US, so it's massive companies already taking it in-house, and they need to do it as a step-by-step because they need to change how they work and how they think about different things, so it takes time. But you do every once in a while see things that are kind of stupid or weird. So one example comes to mind, and again, I will not talk about Toyota, but talk about things that we did. So one of our clients is some kind of a financial institutions, and their goal is for people to open new accounts in their platform. And one of the keywords that Albert found and tried to target was open a Fortnite account. And the team immediately called us and said, "Hey, Albert is sick, Albert is wrong, Albert went crazy." So first, it doesn't really happen. But second, we were also intrigued because I was like, even me as the CEO, I was like, what's going on? And then we looked in the logs and tried to understand what's going on, and we found out that at a specific date there was a new version of Fortnite. And then many people were trying to open a Fortnite account, And then Albert thought that that's going to be a very cheap way of getting more traffic into their website and maybe convert one of them. So he tried that. He spent $40 on it, lifetime, and killed it because he thought it was a good idea. It was a very bad idea, and we learned from it. So there's a lot of things that look to us like stupid or things like the Toyota example that looks very weird to you, but there's thinking behind that, but sometimes it needs to be course corrected, either by humans, and so we play a big part on using these AI systems, and sometimes the system itself.
Are there anyone else want to jump in? No.
Well, I have an example. I don't think it's that negative though. So
Okay.
I just thought it was kind of a fun example. At Goodloop, we focus a lot on brand purpose and like working with brands on social, using brands and advertising to be a force for good in the world. So we're always looking for new stories and new ideas around this. And Samsung did a thing maybe 6 months ago. Perhaps you've heard of it. It was called Predict to Prevent. And the idea of it was you download the AI onto your phone, or maybe it's already on the phone because it's Samsung. Mechanics are a bit fuzzy to me. But anyway, somehow you get this AI, which means that when you're writing to your friends to try and cheer them up if they are depressed or at risk of suicide or really in a sensitive emotional state, the AI will change how you talk to them to be more productive. So it was a big awareness piece around how you should talk to people with depression. So rather than saying like, oh, you'll snap out of it, being like, oh, I'm here for you. So it was mostly a PR stunt, leveraging AI as a way to tell that story. And I don't think that AI is often used in a creative way. You know, it's often used at the distribution end. So I really liked that they leveraged that as a way to think about how we can change our language.
And what's our take on that? Is that a branding piece? Is that an offsetting the balance that is inherent within AI, that it will always be better at the computational big data piece and that it will never really be able to fit into creativity? Or have you seen examples where you've been blown away and impressed with the use of AI in creative?
I mean, as a market manager, would love to have AI in the creative process of making commercials and marketing pieces. So I hope. And we actually talked about it. You had one example of that.
Yeah. I actually don't think that this is something that will happen in a way that we can imagine.
Okay.
Because I think that if you think about creative, it's all about vision, right?
Yep.
So there was I think in the U.S. there was a big American football example with Colin Kaepernick is one of the quarterbacks. I don't know how many people watch American football here, but anyway. And that's an idea that somebody came up with that idea. It's not something a machine can think about.
Right.
And these are the things that actually resonate with us as consumers, right? So we don't care about you showing me a nice ad. We care about messages that resonate. Like you mentioned, like the Samsung example here is a great example. Now all of us feel much more nicely about Samsung because they're more humane to us, right? This is the things that machines will have very hard time of doing.
Yep.
I can tell you a campaign that we didn't run. Which was we were asked whether we could target people from 2 a.m. onwards listening to depressing music for a mental health awareness campaign.
Right.
And we thought that might be just a little bit creepy.
Right. But yeah, as norms change, right, in society, maybe those start to run, not necessarily from your business, but it's interesting. Okay. Any questions from the audience? Yes. I'm just going to, because I'm going to have to paraphrase this, I'm getting more and more anxious as you speak. I'm like, yeah. Okay, so I guess the question for those who can't hear that because of the microphone is, as this starts to level out, as more solutions enter the market, does this become something that everyone has access to at a competitive price point, and then kind of it's all equals? Is that essentially the... Yes.
Yeah, a great question. So first, I think it's a good thing. I think, like Amy mentioned, that like I want a small brand to be able to fight with Adidas, just because they're not our client yet. But I want to have that. I want to have that feeling that we can do that. It's not about because you have money and you're Amazon, you can fight that war. So that's one thing. And the second thing is everybody imagine it as like two algorithms fighting one another and who has the best IPA. But in real life, if you look, we have probably 300 people here. Nobody's dressed alike. Like it's kind of crazy. Just think about that. Everybody, it will be very hard to find people who wear the same clothes here. And that means that people has free choice. Right? At the end of the day, if you use Nike products or Adidas products, you're doing it because you like the brand, you like the product. So although we can bring you the product, we can show you an ad, at the end of the day, it's going to be your decision. And I think what's really exciting in marketing is that most people today look at AI as a risk. What they don't understand that in the next few years is going to be the glory days of marketing. Because in real life, if you think about that, the Mad Men days where you have a brilliant idea and that's what wins everything, they're going to come back. Because instead of doing this kind of, sorry if there's some optimization managers here, stupid things like, oh, I need to change that bid or this bid, or how do I allocate budgets? You're thinking about strategic ideas, you're thinking about different things. So I think, like everybody else saying about the risk of AI, it will create a new, like you said, another new playing field, but also a new spark of creativity that people will learn how to use it.
And also suggest that the AI technology is a USP and it might plateau, but the data that fuels the AI is something that you can always have an advantage in. And I'm really interested in how we can create data sets that are more complete by looping the user into that exchange. So when you have permissioned data, when you have data where the user is actively given it and has control in a transparent, clear way about, I want advertisers to know that I'm 25. I want advertisers to know I'm 51. That's the kind of data where you can empower people and actually therefore get more clarity and more accuracy. So perhaps all the AI is the same, but the data feeding it will ultimately be won by who can create the best value exchange with users.
And that has been traditionally third parties offering essentially kind of a service or a platform or a space, or from MySpace or whatever it is. Do we see that as if, clearly you believe in that because you've spending your life building around it, but do we see that as a theme where one of the competitive advantages of businesses is the ability to build a better social contract with the user and to get better permissions and offer more value to them in the future? And does that change the nature of the data then that our AIs are trained on?
Yeah, definitely. I think more and more customers are going to see this data transaction as what it is, a transaction.
Yes.
And if I'm giving something up, I want to get something in return. Either I want to feel more empowered, I want to have greater choice, and I'm maybe willing to give more up as a result.
So people may opt into, frankly, data that in our, broadly speaking, commercial kind of e-commerce world, which is mainly what the internet has been, quite a lot of clicking around and buying stuff. That's been a lot of the data. But maybe if we have these relationships where there's a bit more of a first-party relationship with the users, we start to get a broader, more empathetic picture of what they are.
Well,
be interesting.
Well, for example, what we do, and we ask specifically for mic access.
Right.
So without mic access, I can't have a dialogue with the customer.
Yes.
But in exchange, the customer then is empowered to choose not to listen to the ad,
Right.
which sometimes you don't want to do. Maybe a lot of the time you don't want to do. But then when you do hear an ad that you want to listen to, and you can unpack it and get something really valuable as a result, that transaction is worthwhile.
Okay. Good. Anything else from the audience? We'll go here. Yep. I think I need. Do you want to paraphrase that?
No, please do.
So the first was, did you augment it with any other technologies or traditional advertising systems, or I guess teams and things like that?
TV,
okay,
outdoor.
Yeah, okay. TV, exactly. And then second was any teething problems in actually embedding Albert in those first few, well, it sounds like a first year?
Don't be ashamed.
No, of course, I'm
Now
going
is
to
the
be
time.
totally honest. I mean, as I said, I'm in the Swedish market, and I'm the enterprise marketing manager, and I have a sister division who is responsible for the consumer market. So I don't do any TV at all, traditional TV, or a little bit of print sometimes. But my consumer manager uses traditional TV for their kind of commercials, yes. So we have a combination in Sweden, since we're using the same brand. The implementation of Albert, I would say that we didn't have any problems at all. We're waiting for one channel, and that is LinkedIn.
I'll call the team right now.
No, perfect.
You've raised it to your customer service support person.
So that's what we're waiting for. No, I think that the team that you had, that we've been working with, it was, as I said, this was an easy product to implement. But we had some MarTech already up, like Google Analytics, and we had the Epicommerce. So these together with Albert made a great platform for optimizing the media and the lead generation process. But we also have other MarTech. We have, for example, Salesforce. Now I'm giving them good words as well, but and also Pardo. So we have a lot of different technologies to be able to create this this total process between marketing and sales. Was that the answer to your question? Yes.
Maybe final question. Yeah, we'll go here.
Do you think that AI like Albert will result in becoming smaller marketing teams? And also, how do you think it'll affect the media agency landscape?
So yeah, will technologies like Albert lead to smaller marketing teams within the brands, and how will it affect the media agency landscape?
Yeah, so actually with our clients, we don't see people reducing the size of the marketing team, because I think what people realize that they have so much more work to do that they haven't been doing. So finally they can do that. So that's for the marketing team. Agency-wise, there are going to be a lot of changes. As said, we work with agencies, and we look at agencies as partners of ours. But the thing is, a lot of the things that agencies do today don't make sense, right? So why do you need somebody to change the bids on your Google AdWords account? Like, if there's a machine that can do it in a fraction of the cost, much, much better, so why would we want to do that? So some things will change, but so one of our board members is Rob Norman. He used to be chief executive of Group M worldwide. So, and he says, and obviously I agree because he's my board member. I have my chairman here as well, Lisa. He says that, you know, it's actually good days for the agencies, right? Because if you think about the value of agencies is to have brilliant people help execute everything. But does that mean that they need to push all the buttons, or do they need to help to make the right decisions, right? So, and if I was probably 10 years younger, starting work with an agency, yeah, I'd rather help craft the strategy and help with the execution other than just push different buttons. So I think the change, although it might be scary for some organizations, whether it's the marketing teams or agencies, it's actually something that everybody will embrace. And more important, it's inevitable. Like some people say, oh, no, it will not. No, it's inevitable. Like once you see it in work, it's going. So the only question is, when do you jump on that car, or should you wait and be the last one in the world to do that, or just enjoy the fruits like Ellinor did in Telenor?
I think you're probably in the right place, at least, if you're trying to stay ahead of the inevitable conclusion. So I think we're at time. I'll ask for your applause in a second for the panel. I'll just sum up on sort of some of what we talked about. So thank you all so much. We talked about sort of who is set up to win as we move towards this inevitable conclusion. Is it the brands? Is it the agencies? You know, is it the corporates themselves? How will they invest in AI? We talked about sort of limits and territories of where it can and cannot be deployed effectively at the moment, whether it's kind of more on that media and programmatic side versus the actual creation of content. And we try to talk about seeing it not just through the lens of innovation and what we can build, but through the actual lens of the audience and sort of building a more empathetic, hopefully, relationship with them. I think that makes full sense. All real disruption comes out of unhappy customers, not just building because we can. There's plenty of unhappy customers in the marketing and advertising landscape. So hopefully we're heading in the right direction. Thank you all so much to the panel and for being here. Thank you.